So this page takes it to the next step. So this time we're doing standard conversions, so things that you may see on a day-to-day basis or every once in a while. So at the very top, there are several conversions that you may need in order to get these things done. So the first one says, convert 156 inches to feet. So when we go up to the top, it says that 1 foot is 12 inches. So down here, we put 1 foot is 12 inches. So if it helps to make it a little bit more visual, anytime you have a whole number, there's a 1 in that underneath that fraction. So then you multiply straight across the top. 156 times 1 is 156. 1 times 12 is 12. And 156 divided by 12 is 13. So that means your answer in this one is 13 feet. So if you're ever cooking in the kitchen, you might see something about cups and ounces. Maybe you want to cut a recipe, or maybe it's not measured in cups on that box. So if we need 4 cups of something and we need to figure out how many ounces that is, we go to the very top and we see that 1 cup is 8 ounces. So down here where it says blank ounces, there's 8 ounces in 1 cup. So again, every whole number is on top of 1, so that helps you multiply straight across. And we have 4 times 8 is 32. 1 times 1 is 1. So 32 divided by 1 is 32 ounces. So 4 cups is the same as 32 ounces. So those one-step conversions are a little bit easier than what's coming next. So we have these multi-step conversions. It says convert 32 cups to gallons. So again, referencing up top, we know pints and cups. 1 pint is 2 cups. So we say 1 pint is 2 cups. The next one compares quarts to pints. So 1 quart is 2 pints. 1 quart, 2 pints. The next one compares gallons to quarts. So 1 gallon is 4 quarts. So 1 gallon, 4 quarts. And remember, every whole number is on top of 1. So when we multiply this straight across the top, 32 times 1 times 1 times 1, we end up with 32. Across the bottom, 1 times 2 is 2, times 2 is 4, times 4 is 16. So 1 times 2 times 2 times 4 makes 16. So when we simplify that fraction, we end up with 32 divided by 16 is 2 gallons. So 32 cups is equivalent to 2 gallons. So on the next one, we have feet and miles. So up at the top, if we're looking at feet and mile, we have 1 mile is 5,280 feet. So when we come down here, we have 1 mile, 5,280 feet. So miles are taken care of. We have feet up top, which means we need feet at the bottom. And I'm going to go back and show you guys that throughout all the rest of them. So there's 3 feet in 1 yard. So when we multiply straight across the top, we have 3 times 5,280, which is 15,840 times 1 is 15,840. And then at the bottom, 1 times 1 times 3 is 3. So when you divide that out, 15,840 divided by 3, you get 5,280 yards. So something I want you guys to notice before we get into these bottom ones is the way these are set up. So let me get a different color. There we go. So at the top, there's cups. At the bottom, there's cups. And they eliminate, and it leaves us just with ounces. So on the next one, we had cups on top, cups on bottom, pints on top, pints on bottom, quarts, quarts. And it left us with just gallons, which is what we were looking for. So down here, we had miles at the top, miles at the bottom, feet at the top, feet at the bottom, and that left us with yards. So you have to have one at the top and one at the bottom in order for them to cancel out. So when we come down here, 17 days into minutes, our given information is 17 days. So that's where we start. And I always set mine up as a table instead of the fractions because it works better for me. So now I have days at the top, so days has to go to the bottom. And between days and minutes, I know how many hours are in a day, and I know how many minutes are in an hour. So that's kind of the trail I'm going to follow here. So I can compare days to hours, and then I have hours up top, so I'm going to have hours on the bottom and minutes at the top. So our progression through this whole thing, and I'm going to erase this as soon as I finish marking through it, is we have days at the top, days at the bottom, hours at the top, hours at the bottom, and it leaves us just with the minutes. So that takes us from our goal from 17 days into minutes. So before I truly cross this out, we need to fill out everything. So how many hours are in a day? There's 24 hours in one day. The comparison between minutes and hours, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So each little section is kind of its own equivalence. So when we multiply this out, we end up with, first let's cross out our units, days up top, days on bottom, hours on top, hours on bottom. We're left with just minutes. So when we multiply straight across the top, and then we multiply straight across the top, we get 24,480. Multiply straight across the bottom, you get 1, which will give us 24,480 minutes. So with the next one, we're going from inches to centimeters. So our given information is that 10 inches. And right here, it says 1 inch is 5.24 centimeters. So 10 inches to centimeters. So because of this conversion, we can actually go straight from inches to centimeters. So inches is at the top, which means inches has to go at the bottom, and centimeters goes at the top because that's what we're comparing in that next section. So just like it says in our hint, 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So and when we look at our units, inches up top, inches on bottom, we're left with centimeters. So 10 times 2.54 is 25.4 over 1 is equal to 25.4 centimeters. Okay, in our next one, we're given that it's 165 pounds, and we're going to kilograms. So over here, we have a conversion straight from kilograms to pounds. So pounds is at the top in our given, so pounds goes at the bottom in our conversion. And then kilograms goes at the top. So just like it says over here in that given conversion, 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So cross out your units, pounds up top, pounds at the bottom. And we're left with 165 times 1 is 165. At the bottom, there's a 2.2. So 165 divided by 2.2 is 75 kilograms. So our next section. So we have 22,647 inches into miles. So 22,647 inches. We have to take it to miles. We don't know how many inches are in a mile without thinking about it, but we can go from inches to feet to miles easier. So inches up top, inches at the bottom. Feet up top, feet on the bottom. So when we fill in our numbers, the comparison between inches and feet is there are 12 inches in 1 foot. The comparison between miles and feet is that there's 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So when you multiply straight across the top and divide by the numbers at the bottom, you end up with approximately, actually we'll put the fraction in there, so inches, inches, feet, feet. You're left with miles. So when you multiply straight across the top, you get 22647 over 69840, which becomes approximately 0.32 miles. And I did the approximately because it's a very long decimal, and we don't want to write all that out. So instead, I wrote approximately 0.32. All right, next one, 45 yards into feet. So we have 45 yards. And we want to transfer it into feet. We know that there are 3 feet in 1 yard. Remember, you have to have the units on top and at the bottom. So yards up top, yards on bottom. So we're left with 45 times 3, which is 135. In the denominator, you have a 1. So when we divide that out, we end up with 135 feet because feet was the only units we have left. Okay, so we're on to the last one in our notes, and this one it says you find 13,905,613 pennies. How many dollars do you have? So our given is that 13,905,613 pennies. What we know about pennies, pennies up top, pennies on the bottom. And what you know about pennies is there are 100 pennies in $1. So when you do this, multiply straight across the top, divide by that number on the bottom, and you end up with 1,390,56.13 dollars. So that's actually $139,056.13. So now that we're on to the next page, this is a lot of practice. So I'm going to let you guys do this and check your answers on Canvas. But the second section we are going to do together. So this one is changing 2 units. So it's unit rates. So for the first one, our given information is that there's 1,100 feet per second. So that's per 1 second. So 1,100 feet per 1 second. And we want to change that into miles per hour. So feet to miles, yes, we can do that. Seconds to hours, we don't know how many seconds are in an hour without doing some kind of math. So we're going to go from seconds to minutes to hours because we know how many seconds are in a minute and we know how many minutes are in an hour. So when we do this, we're first dealing with the distance, so feet to miles. So we have feet up top, so feet goes at the bottom and miles up top. There are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Cross out feet, we're left with miles. Miles is where we want to be, we're there. So now we deal with the time. So we have seconds at the bottom, so seconds goes at the top. I've made a mess of this, that's okay. So seconds goes at the top and minutes goes at the bottom because we want to go from seconds to minutes. So seconds at the bottom, seconds at the top, it crosses out. We know there's 60 seconds in 1 minute. Then we have minutes at the bottom, so minutes has to be at the top, and hours at the bottom. 60 minutes in 1 hour, minutes crosses out, one at the bottom, one at the top, and we're left with miles per hour. So now you just multiply straight across the top to get your numerator value, divide by all the numbers at the bottom, and we end up with, so when you multiply straight across the top, you end up with 396,000 over 5280, which gives us 750 miles per hour. So watch your units. Make sure that you're ending up with the right things before you do your calculations. So the next one. Our given information is this 721 pounds per 1 week. And we want to get it into kilograms per second. So pounds to kilograms, we do know that. So if we go way back to the top, it tells us that 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So we come back down here. Pounds is at the top, so pounds is at the bottom. So it says 1 pound is 2.2 kilograms. Did I get that the right way? Nope, the other way around. 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So now we have pounds at the top, pounds at the bottom. They cross out. We're left with kilograms, which is what we want. So now we can move on to the time. So weeks to seconds. The way we measure weeks is in days. So I've got weeks at the bottom. So I'll put week at the top, days at the bottom. The way we measure days is in hours. So days is at the bottom, so days at the top, hours at the bottom. The next one, the way we measure hours is in minutes. Hours is at the bottom, so hours is at the top, and minutes is at the bottom. And the way we measure minutes is in seconds. So minutes at the bottom, so minutes at the top, seconds at the bottom. So 1 week is 7 days. 1 day is 24 hours. 1 hour is 60 minutes. 1 minute is 60 seconds. If we cross out our units, we have weeks at the bottom, weeks at the top, days at the bottom, days at the top, hours at the bottom, hours at the top, minutes at the bottom, minutes at the top. We're left with seconds at the bottom, which is where we want to be. So when you multiply straight across the top and divide by the product of all the numbers in the bottom, you end up with 0.0026 kilograms per second. So follow your trail, see what you know. All right, for the last one, I'm going to delete this because I ran out of room in the top one and they got a little jumbled. So I don't want that to happen with the next one. So I'm going to erase all of this to maximize my room. So we have, actually, let's just do this. So for our last one, we have 27 miles per gallon. So 27 miles per 1 gallon. And we're trying to figure out kilometers per liter. So when we go to the top, miles to kilometers, we have right there, 0.62 miles equals 1 kilometer. So we have miles at the top, so miles at the bottom. And just to make sure we get this right, 1 kilometer is 0.62 miles. So we've taken care of miles to kilometers. So now we still have to take care of gallons to liters. So let's go back to the top. Gallons and liters. So we don't have gallons and liters, but we can still make it. So we know there's a quart to liters, and just like that prefix quart, quarter, that means it's 4 makes 1 whole. 4 quarters makes 1 whole gallon. So quart, quarters. So we can take this information and make it work. So we have gallons at the bottom, so gallons at the top. And again, I've written far too large, so I'm going to start this one over. 27 miles per 1 gallon. Miles at the top, miles at the bottom, kilometers at the top. So 1 kilometer was 0.62 miles. And then we said gallons at the bottom, so gallons at the top. In 1 gallon, there are 4 quarts. And then at the top, it told us that 1 quart, because quart's at the bottom, so quart at the top, is 0.946 liters. So 0.946 liters. So when we look at our units, miles at the top, miles at the bottom, it crosses out, and we're left with kilometers. So then we have gallons at the bottom, gallons at the top, so they cross out. Quarters at the bottom and quarters at the top, so it crosses out, and we're left with liters. So our goal was this kilometers per liter, so we have it. So when you find the product of the numerators and find the product of the denominators, and then divide numerator divided by denominator, you end up with 11.51 per liter. So this is relevant because in America, we measure our distance in miles and our gasoline in gallons. Every other country measures their distance in kilometers and their gasoline in liters. So if you're ever planning to travel outside of the United States, this is relevant. All right, on to the last page. So Mary made 15,000 milliliters of tea for a party. She served the tea divided equally into 8 pitchers. The guests at the parties drank 6 pitchers. In order to store the tea, she needs to put the remaining tea into 20-ounce bottles. How many 20-ounce bottles will she need to store the leftover tea? So the first thing I do is separate out that 15,000 milliliters of tea into the 8 pitchers to find out 1 pitcher. So we need our unit rate. So there's 15,000 milliliters of tea divided equally among 8 pitchers, which lets us know that in each pitcher there's 1,875 milliliters per pitcher. So it also told me that everybody at the party drank 6 pitchers, which means that there's 2 pitchers left that have to be stored. So we're going to multiply that by 2 pitchers. And that means the total tea consumed was 3,750 milliliters. I'm going to put drink. So that's how much they drink at this party. So now we have to divide that into 20-ounce bottles. So our given information is that there are 3,750 milliliters. And we want to find out how many 20-ounce bottles there are. So we have this conversion up here that there's liters. So the first thing we have to do is we have to convert. Sorry, there's 250 milliliters and we're dividing it into 20-ounce bottles per 20-ounce bottles. So next we have to figure out our milliliters to liters. So this goes back to that very first thing we did. So we have King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. So we're going from milli to your base unit liters. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 times to the left. So there are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. So that's my next thing. 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. So then we still need the ounces part. So in liters are at the top. So 1 liter at the bottom is 33.8 ounces. So we're trying to figure out how many 20-ounce bottles. Milliliters, milliliters, liters, liters, ounces, ounces. So this will give us our number of bottles. So we end up with 6.3 bottles. So that means 6 bottles in isn't enough, which means you need 7 bottles to fill that up. Now, the reason that we don't leave it as 6.3 is because you don't have a physical third of a bottle. You have to have a 7th bottle in order to put that remaining liquid. So we took that 33,750 milliliters and we divided it into 20-ounce bottles to figure out how many 20-ounce bottles we need. All right, our next one. Josh is training on an irregular track. The length of 1 lap around the track is 20,000 meters. Josh runs 5 laps on the track in 1.06 hours. What is Josh's miles pace, miles per minute, or minute per mile, on average during his workout? So we need to have minutes per mile in the end. So what we're going to start with is we need to figure out how far did he run. So it says 1 lap, 2,000 meters, and he went 5 laps. So the first thing we're going to do is that 2,000 meters times 5 laps, which means he ran a total of 10,000 meters. So then it tells us that he did that entire 10,000 meters in 1.06 hours. Now, because we want our final thing to have the time on top, we start with the time on top. So 1.06 hours is how long it took him to run 10,000 meters. So based on our metric ladder, we know that there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. And based on our conversions at the front, we know that 1 kilometer is 0.62 miles. So at this point, if we look at our units, we take our meters, meters, kilometers, kilometers, and we're left with miles. Miles is what we want in the denominator. So now we need minutes. So we start off with hours. Hours is at the top, so hours is at the bottom. We can compare hours to minutes because there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So when you multiply straight across the top, and then divide by the denominator, you end up with 10.26. So then when we go back to our question, it says minutes per mile. So that's 10.26 minutes per mile. All right, so the last one is one that I want you guys trying, and then you can check your answer on the answer key on Canvas.